So with the Premier League season kicking off in, well, probably the next half an hour, I think it's time to make my Premier League predictions. And more than ever am I confident. I feel really confident with my Premier League prediction. Okay, let me adjust the camera. With my Premier League predictions this year. So what we're going to do in the standard Premier League prediction format is we are going to name a team, well, from 20th to 1st, and then I'm going to give my reasons. So yeah, without further ado, let's get in to 20th position, and the team that will be going down first. Oh god, I bet you they'll do well. So in 20th place is a team that I've actually brought in a ton of players. Now this might surprise some of you, but it's Watford. Now, I respect Watford for keeping hold of players such as Osmar Lassar and Will Hughes, who are both brilliant players along with the Cycling GK. They've even got some of their Premier League relegation players from a few years ago still in the team. I think they've still got players such as Craig Dawson, Craig Cathcart, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm just going to list some of the Watford signings that are actually significant because they've made a lot, and a lot of them are just filler players. Dennis from Club Bruges, Loser from Nantes, Matty Pollock, bit of a weird one, Danny Rose, who else they brought in? They brought in Atebo for a decent amount on a loan deal. They've also managed to bring in Jerome Sinclair, the former Celtic or Rangers player. Now, in terms of departures, now I don't want to know. Okay, did I just need to scroll down for departures? I'm pretty annoyed if I just. Okay, yeah, for departures, Craig Dawson has left. Other than that, is there anyone else pretty significant that has left? No, literally no one else has left. So, other than that, in terms of business for Watford, they've done okay business. They've brought in some players that you might recognise, but they're not going to be world beaters that will keep them in the Premier League, in my opinion. But I think the relegation zone, I think actually that the bottom 5, 6, 7 teams are going to be very close. So yeah, let's move on into 19. And this is actually a team I know a bit more about, so I don't need to do a cut, I don't need to do research. It's actually Norwich City. So Norwich have actually managed to keep a hold of players such as Timu Pukki, Aarons, Tim Krul, and they've done a really decent job. They've unfortunately lost Buendia, which is one of the big hitters for their team, which is why I put them in 19th place. That's basically it. I put Norwich in 19th place because they've not done enough to replace Buendia. I think Buendia is an irreplaceable player. You know what? Let's stop doing all of this reasoning stuff. Let's move on to P18. And for that, I'm going to go with a team who pretty much loads of people are saying they're going to get relegated, and it happens every year, but they never get relegated. It's Burnley. And it's the most boring team in football. The team that Sean Dyche jokingly said in an interview tried to approach Lionel Messi. So I think Burnley are going to go down because, once again, they've made no real inroads in the transfer market. I think they play a dull style of football. It works most of the time, but I feel like teams, especially last season, were starting to crack that and were able to beat their defence considerably. Well, it looked unbreakable of Nick Pope, Ben Mee, and Tarkowski, but, you know, it wasn't unbreakable unlike seasons before. So I think Burnley will go down, and I think it'll be close between them and the 17th place team, who I predicted to go down last year, but they didn't actually go down, and it was Brighton and Hove Albion. So the thing about Brighton, right, people are predicting them high, and the thing is, they scored loads of goals considering where they finished in the table, but the problem was that they only won 9 games. Most of their games were draws. So I don't know if this is a significant flaw with Brighton, and I'm just going to take a quick look at who their signings are, and I'll be back in just a second. Now, Brighton obviously boasts some decent players, such as Adam Lallana and Lamptey. But in terms of players that they've actually brought in, I actually don't... Other than getting rid of Ben White and Johannes Bask, the only thing that's gone on at Brighton is departures, and that can only be a bad thing. And now I think Ben White, even though he didn't have a standout season like he did at Leeds in the Championship, I still think he was a key part of their side. Losing Ben White, I think, could be the thing that tips them into a relegation battle. So now we move on to 16th. And there's one team out of the 3 that got promoted that I haven't mentioned yet, and yes, it's going to be Brentford in P16. So in terms of what Brentford have done in the Championship, well, I know they've managed to keep hold of players who are big, such as Ivan Toney. They've kept hold of players such as Fosu, Henry. They've done brilliantly, and they play actually this evening as well, which is pretty interesting. So we only get to see our first look at Watford. But the last team that played on the opening day, Norwich, got beat by Liverpool. Liverpool went on to win the league, and Norwich ended up getting relegated with a shocking season. But yeah, in terms of signing and departures, I accidentally just searched up Brentford instead of Brentford signings because I can't go onto the app that I use without going on the internet, which is weird. But yeah, in terms of players they brought in Ayer from Celtic, Onyenka from Midtjylland, and other than that, I actually don't think none of these players are actually that good. Bidstrup from Brentford B team, they've not really brought in anyone. In terms of departures, again, they've got rid of Dalsgaard, they've got rid of... That's it, actually. Brentford have done barely any business, but I think Ivan Toney will absolutely carry them. And I just think Brentford, they're a team that we don't know a lot about, but they're a team that are very good. And I think with Mbebu, and so they've got a really nice team. So I just think that they're going to do really well in the Premier League. So let's move on to 15th place, Southampton. Now, again, Southampton could be one that I get completely wrong because, you know, they've got rid of Danny Ings, and apparently James Ward-Prowse wants out of the club. So if they got rid of James Ward-Prowse, I think that kind of be like their last big gun on. But in terms of deals for Southampton, I think that they've not done much. Let's go take a look. So they've brought in Adam Armstrong from Blackburn, who got to What If in FIFA, which is the only way people actually know who he is. They brought in Theo Walcott, who is an experienced player. Obviously, we know who he is. And in terms of outs, they've got rid of Danny Ings, they've got rid of Vestergaard, and, you know, Lamine gone, Bertrand's gone. Oh, man, and now I look at this, they've even, the end of his loan of Minamino, who was actually a decent player for them, has ended as well. So I'm actually going to put a star next to Southampton as a team that I doubt will do as good as I predicted them. I think they're going to struggle. I'm 15th is a dodgy. And again, there's also a team coming up that I think has done worse as well, considering when I looked at their transfers beforehand, because I didn't know anything about them this season. That's when I got really surprised, and that's when I was like, oh god. But yeah, 14th place, I've gone with Newcastle. I said that really well. I said Newcastle instead of Newcastle, so Yeah, I've gone with Newcastle P14. I've seen many people putting them in P13, but if once again managed to keep hold of the brilliant St. Maximan, they've still got players such as Joe Linton, Wilson in their side. I think if they can keep their players fit, they've also brought in Joel Willock today as well, which is a big move for them. I honestly think Newcastle could even do better than they have. I think they can jump the team ahead of them because the team ahead of them have genuinely had an absolute shocker this window, especially with contracts. I think they've had an absolute shocker in terms of the contracts. So Newcastle United, in depth, they've brought in Joel Willock, and that's it. And in terms of players out, they've sold Atsu, Muto, who are two players that used to be decent, but they've been moved on. Florian Lejeune, who's getting older. Andy Carroll has been released, and Saviat has also been released. But Newcastle, they could be odds on. I think Newcastle are still a really solid team. I think they've still got good solid bases with the Pravka, Cher, Willock, and St. Maximan as their key players. So moving on to P13, the team I'm really doubting ever since I saw their, outgoes, it's actually Crystal Palace. So they've actually had a really poor window in terms of outgoings, and apparently Eberici Eze's injured. Zaha's been wanting out of the club now for absolutely donkeys, but they've got him at gunpoint. That's not the engagement YouTube, don't remove this video. They've got him at gunpoint, they won't let him go. So that's what's happening. And in terms of signings, they've brought in Anderson from Olympique Lyon, who was on loan at Fulham. He's actually a decent defender. They've also brought in Elise from Reading. Other than that, they've brought in no one else. And in terms of outgoings, Andros Townsend's gone to Everton. Van Arnholt's gone to Galatasaray on a free. Sacco has gone to Montpellier on a free. Hennessy's gone to Burnley on a free. James McCarthy's gone to Celtic on a free. They've got rid of Gary Cahill, they've got rid of Scott Dan, they've got rid of Connor Wickham, Sam Wood, Conor Gallagher. Now, in my opinion, I think Crystal Palace have let go of too many key first-team players. Those players could definitely go into their starting lineup and do a solid job, and they haven't replaced them. They've just not done much to replace their players. I don't know if they're in some financial trouble, but I think it's weird that they've not replaced them. So, moving on to the next team, it is in P12, West Ham United. Now, I know a lot of you will be looking at me like, hold on, I swear West Ham were doing really well at the end of last season. And they were. They finished like P6 or 7, P8 maybe. No, they finished P8, I think. And yeah, it's just, I can't really explain it, but I know why West Ham won't do well. Basically, West Ham, they don't have Jesse Lingard, who absolutely carried them. Mikel Antonio's obviously got injury issues. They've brought in Craig Dawson, Areola, who I actually think is a clutch signing. But if they were a team who didn't need a goalkeeper because Fabianski's still excellent, then I would have said, you know what, that's a good signing, that can make an impact. But Fabianski's still very good, and Areola had a really good season. But can he actually carry West Ham to better things? They've let go of Felipe Anderson as well. And then Areola and Davies have come in. Yeah, other than that, they've not really done much, to be honest. Yeah. And other than that, they've got rid of Balbuena as well as Felipe Anderson. So it's just, I don't know, West Ham's not really done much in the market. Could they get Jesse Lingard? I don't think so. So we're just going to move swiftly on into the next. Oh, apparently Yarmolenko is apparently going away as well. But yeah, moving on to P11, and it's a team that many people have actually said will improve on what they did last season. I personally don't think they will improve that much. It's Leeds United. Now, Leeds United P11, I know that maybe some Leeds fans will be upset considering the foundations they laid last season, but considering what they've done in the transfer... Okay, I dropped my pen. Sorry. But considering what they've done in the transfer market, I don't think it's quite enough. So they've obviously brought in players such as Junior Firpo and Jack Harrison on a permanent deal. And other than that, they've not brought in any other big name players. So Firpo, it's because Barcelona wanted rid of him, and Jack Harrison still was made permanent. So in my opinion, right, Jack Harrison's good, obviously. Firpo could be decent for them, but will he be able to change the scene of the club and push them into the top 10 properly? But in terms of players out, they've got rid of Alioski, who I think is a really decent player. They've got rid of Pablo Hernandez, who is a decent player as well. They've got rid of Kiko Casilla. They've got rid of other players as well, which half decent players. They've got rid of a couple of youngsters and all. So it's a bit meh. It's a bit stalemate at the minute in terms of Leeds. So we're just going to swiftly move on so I don't upset people. But apparently they are linked with Josh Dolg. Okay, thank you, Matt. But yeah, moving on to P10, it's a team that actually struggled last season. I think they'll be back to their best. And I remember thinking of their squad, and then I was like, okay, this team should definitely be higher than they are. It's actually Wolverhampton Wanderers or Wolves. I normally call them Wolves, but I like to say their full name in videos because I'm a little nerd. So in terms of signings, they brought in Jose Sarr. They've brought in Francesco Trincao from Barca. He's a sick player. They've also brought in Mascella, Bola and Sarr as well, and Aiton Nuri as well. And that, they brought in Trincao on a loan, but he's Portuguese, obviously, so that makes sense. And in terms of departures, they've actually got rid of Rui Patricio. Now, seeing that's actually made me re-debate my decision because, Wolves, they're a really good team, but Patricio is a really good goalkeeper. Now, that's actually confused me quite a bit. Why have they got rid of him? Oh, no, they've also got rid of Ruben Vinagre, who's a good player. They've got rid of, who else? Willian Jose, his line's ended, but, you know what I mean. But how have they managed? I don't know. I'm actually a bit confused now. You know what? No, I don't think they'll do better than 10. I think without Rui Patricio, Wolves might actually just do P10, just go P10 and just stay there. So moving on to P9 now, it's a team that was once at the top of the league last season, and everyone was like, oh yeah, this team is insane. They made some good signings last season, but this season they have failed to make any dazzling signings within the transfer market in the summer window, and it's Everton. So Carlo Ancelotti dumped them, and Rafa Benitez, the former Liverpool manager, has actually picked up the reins and decided, you know what, let's just go retrade him. No, I'm joking. I don't mind, as long as I'm actually happy he's back in the Prem. I loved him at Newcastle. He was Newcastle's saviour when he was there, so I'm a big fan of Rafa Benitez. So we're just going to swiftly move on into their transfer signings. So they brought in Damari Gray for 1.8 million, which I think is an absolute steal. They brought in Andros Townsend on a free, Asmir Begovic on a free, and Moise Keane's come back along with Cenk Tosun and John Joe Kenny. So that's some really good players coming back, other than Cenk Tosun. But yeah, in terms of departures, they've got rid of Bernard, which I actually think is below. I think Bernard's a decent player, and they've only let him go for 900,000, so that's a bit upsetting. Other than that, they've got rid of Joshua King to Watford on a free, and Theo Walcott to Southampton on a free. Other than that, Yannick Bolassi's been released, and Olsen is gone back to Roma. So other than that, they've not really done much in the transfer market again. They made some average progress in the transfer market, bringing in a couple, getting rid of a couple. So I think P9's a fair thing considering their squad. But moving on to 8, and now I've seen people actually put this team in the top 6 positions, and now I looked at it and I was like, yeah, it could happen, and I think it's going to be close. But Aston Villa, I think, are going to finish in P8 this season. I think they're going to be a few points away from the Europa Conference League, and a few more points on top of that would get them into the Europa League. So, Villa, P8. Obviously, they've made some absolutely brilliant signings this season, bringing in the likes of Wendy, Leon Bailey, and Danny Ings, 3 players who I'm absolutely in love with. I love them. They've brought in Ashley Young, Tuan Zebe. They've brought in Samata as well. I actually know him. He's a half-decent player. And they've brought in Frederick Gilbert, who's a right-back from Strasbourg, and I know that already because I've actually watched him play in real life, which was an interesting day. So, that's, again, I don't see any weaknesses there. They've not brought in any Club Villa players. And in terms of outings, obviously, Jack Grealish left for 105.75 million. It was actually 100 mil, but this app says it's 105 something. I don't know, it's weird. But Jack Grealish left, and they used that money smartly to replace him with some brilliant players. And they've let Samata, I think they let Samata go, haven't they? Yeah, they have. They've also let Tom Heaton go. As well to Man United on free, and other than that, Engels, he was alright, but he never really made an impact. El Mohammedy's contract expired, and other than that, I don't think, I genuinely don't think that anything else really happened. So we move, I guess, into P7, and now I already know who's in P7. It is Arsenal. So picking up that Europa Conference League place is Arsenal. So obviously they don't have any European competition this year. So I'm hoping they will make some progress, because in the transfer market they're currently going after, well, in my opinion, they need wingers, strikers, midfielders, fullbacks. In fact, they need every position. They're close to getting James Maddison. Apparently he's like the biggest rumour going on right now. Hector Bellerin could be moving away from the club, but so far they've brought in Ben White, Sambi Lokonga, and Nuno Tavares, who are 3 very solid young players. I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy with that. I think they've improved their positions. I think they do need another striker, because Eddie Nketiah, if he doesn't kick on, could be a struggle. So Lucas Torreira's also come back to the club. Saliba came back, but I think they've let him go again. Guendouzi came back, but again, I think they've let him go. And Kolasinac came back from loan. But Joe Willett, they've obviously sold recently, as a below. He's a really good player. Guendouzi's gone back out on loan, as has Saliba. David Luiz, his contract has not been continued, and Ødegaard, Ceballos, and Matthew Ryan's loans all ended. But I think if they can get Ødegaard and Ceballos back, maybe on loans, maybe on permanent deals, maybe not Ceballos because he didn't really get used, but if they can get Ødegaard back, that's a big plus. That's a big plus. Just like his flag. But yeah, P6, again, I know all the positions from here on in. So P6, I've gone with Tottenham Hotspurs. So I've gone with them because, again, they could lose Harry Kane, which I think actually Arsenal would jump them at that point. So, you know what? It's all down to Harry Kane, really, what happens. But Son signed a new contract. Obviously, Spurs have some absolutely class players. But in terms of Spurs, I've just gone with them there because, you know, they've done some decent stuff. You know, they've brought in Christian Romero, who's an absolutely brilliant player. They've got Ryan Sessegnon to come back, Joan Foyth's come back, Gazaniga's come back. Okay, I should say Gazaniga's come back. And, yeah, it's honestly really, really good. But, yeah, they sold Foyth. They let Alderweireld go, which is a big shame. Joe Hart's gone to Celtic. Danny Rose has gone. Lamella's gone. Gazaniga's gone. Back out on loan. No, he's actually gone on a free to Fulham. That's a bit of a shock. Whiteman's gone. Oh, Gareth Bale's ended loan. Vinicius is loaned. Okay, I'm not going to lie. Tottenham, they can actually do worse. If they lose Harry Kane, Tottenham are in the mud, okay? In my opinion, Tottenham could be in the mud if they lose Harry Kane. So P5 is Leicester City. As always, you know, Leicester City, they're a solid team. You know, last 2 seasons, they've narrowly missed out on Champions League places on the final day, which is unfortunate. But I think this season, the top 4 are going to be too far away for them to reach. But yeah, they've managed to keep hold of some players. They brought in Daka, they brought in Soumare, and they brought in Vestergaard. Were 3 class players. They've obviously lost Fofana to an injury, which was a horrendous challenge. Gazelle's come back from his loan, as well as Benkovic. And in terms of departures, they've got Fuchs, Matty James, Gazelle on free. Wes Morgan's retired, unfortunately, and Under's loan has ended. So in my opinion, right, Leicester, it's just average, right? The winner's been average. They've made some decent, but it's been better than worse. But considering the teams coming up next, right, I honestly think that these top 4 are going to probably jump ahead of Leicester. They're going to get away. And, yeah, which is why in 4th place, I've actually gone with Manchester United. So, Man United 4th, you might be wondering, why 4th? They brought in Varane, they brought in Sancho, they've got a really decent back line now. Their midfield looks set, their attack looks really good, and their keeper as well, David De Gea. He can be dodgy at points, but he's a solid keeper nonetheless in times come by. So why have I predicted Man United 4th and not in a title challenge like many other people have? It's not because I hate Man United, and I do know I don't like Man United because, of course, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I have respect for them, as I do every club, but I just don't like them. That's not the reason, don't worry, it's not because I don't like Man United. I put them there because I think that Ollie is a dodgy manager. I don't think he's that great. I think most of the time he's relied on money getting thrown around to actually make his job easier, because it's his signings that have actually pulled him out, not his tactical masterclasses like the likes of Jose Mourinho at Roma. He started off really well there because of his tactics, not because of his players. So I honestly think Man United won't do as well as the upcoming teams. Now, 3rd place, oh lord, this is actually upsetting for me. I think it's going to be very close between the top 4. Actually, on this prediction right here, the gap between the top 4 is 12 points. The gap between the 3rd place team and the 1st place team is actually 12 points. No, that's 12 points. It's actually 14 points in the top. I think it'll be closer than that. I've gone with 3rd place Liverpool. So Liverpool have not made, well, Michael Liverpool have not made much progress in the transfer window, which is a big shock. I thought with all the money over the past few years, we would have done something big. We would have brought in a big attacker. We would have brought in a big midfielder or a big defender. We have brought in Ibrahim Konate, and I'm not going to lie, that brilliant business as a brilliant defender into the club. But again, instead of investing money into players, we could have signed Messi, but again, owners are too strict, too tight. They won't let us have Messi. They're not going to ever sign a big player. They've just tied down all of our current players to contracts, which you can expect. I think they've tied down Robertson. They've definitely tied down Trent, Van Dijk, Alisson to long-term deals. Obviously, Konate's back in. So Liverpool have themselves on a sure defence for the next 5 to 10 years, with Konate being young, Van Dijk in the prime of his career, Trent as well still being young, Robertson as well being 27, I think he is, and Alisson as well being a similar age to Robbo and Van Dijk. I think we've got a defence for years to come if they don't get poached. I think our midfield's kind of weak, but again, we have loads of options. We have Ox, we have Jones, we have Henderson, we have Thiago, we have Fabinho. We have so many options that could run that midfield. We have Milner still. I think we don't need a world-class midfielder because we've got Fabinho as our tank, we've got Henderson as our passionate captain, we've got Thiago who can bring the flair, and hopefully we push him forward a bit more this season. Or we change formation, we drop Thiago and we get Jota in the team because, Firmino, in my opinion, I like Firmino as a person. I think he's a good person. Obviously, I don't think there's really many horrible people out there, but I think he's not that great. I think he doesn't contribute enough in goals. People say, oh yeah, he's the unsung hero, but he's got to score goals. For any striker in the world, you've got to score goals to be good. Like Harry Kane, he scored goals last season whilst playing a support role where he dropped deep. But I know Harry Kane is breeds ahead of Firmino. But yeah, we're going to move on from Liverpool because I'm going to get into a passionate rant about how much we need to sign players. So we're going to move on to the second and first place team. So it's obviously between Chelsea, the Champions League winners who beat Man City 3 times in 6 weeks, or Manchester City who have gone big again. Both of these teams have gone big in the transfer window to try to outdo each other. And in my opinion, it's going to be very close. 2 points in it. I've gone with second place Manchester City. Why, you may ask? Because they've got one of the strongest teams in the league. It's an overflow of players. I think they have too many players for their own good. Right, so I don't even know if you can think that's possible, but they don't have a striker. I don't think Gabriel Jesus can step up, and I think they've got too many wingers. They've got loads of class midfielders. They've got Bernardo Silva, they've got Red Mahrez, they've got Jack Grealish, they've got Sterling. That's 4 there that are insanely good midfielders, as wide midfielders / wingers that should be in the team. Bernardo Silva in his own right should be starting. Mahrez is world class as well. Sterling proved himself in the Euros. He proved that I was wrong. And not only that, Jack Grealish is a new signing, so you can kind of expect him to play. Gabriel Jesus is a shocking player. I don't like him at all. How he's 83 rated on FIFA, I'll never know. He should be like 42 rated. But their midfield, again, it's aging. It's Rodri, he's like late 20s now. Fernandinho's in his 30s. It's not... Man City's team, especially the defense, is strong, but I think it's not good enough. It's not there. It's not a tight-knit squad like Chelsea. It's not the players know they're a starter, a sub or reserve. The players know what they need to do to get into the team. For Man City, Bernardo Silva could be playing out of his skin in training. He could have brilliant sub. He could be getting sometimes scoring hat-tricks. Grealish will still play because he's worth more. Grealish will still play because he's liked more. Grealish will still play even though he's not played as well as Bernardo Silva would have. But that's why I don't like Man City. They splash all this money on players. They don't let these players go. They run out of contract, and then it's all sad like, oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, we've lost players. But again, let's stop ranting about Man City, because I don't like Man City. Let's move on to Chelsea. And now, I like Chelsea. I love Chelsea as a team. I think Chelsea are going to win the league. I think it's going to be close, but I think Chelsea are going to win the league. I think Thomas Tuchel, he's a brilliant manager. He's similar age to Ollie. He's a former player like Ollie, but Tuchel's got that masterclass tactic that Ollie doesn't. So if Ollie was as good as Tuchel, I honestly think that Man United could win the league this season. I think Man City could even go as low as 4th or 3rd. People are predicting them 4th and 3rd, which is I'd actually found quite shocking. But Chelsea have brought in Lukaku. Imagine an attack of Lukaku, Werner, Pulisic, and Havertz. Imagine that team against you. That is pace, that is strength, that is ability. Werner and Lukaku link up play. Like loads of Werner's goals. I know people hate on him, but loads of his goals are offside, which they're making less strict now. So again, Werner could be up 5-6 goals. And his season last season wasn't even that bad. But they brought in Lukaku. They've obviously got rid of Gilmore, unfortunately. But again, that's not too much of an issue for them. A load of players were out on loan. A load of them have come back, and once again, they've unfortunately let go of Tomori, and Victor Moses was actually, who cares? But yeah, they let go of Tomori, who's like the only big player I think they got rid of. Other than that, just taking a quick look. Billy Gilmore out on loan, he's a decent player. Caballero is without club, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm just saying it now. I think Chelsea squad is tight knit. I know, they've got a certain amount of wingers. They know what they need to do to get into the team. They know how they need to perform. They've got a special system set up, and they beat the reigning Premier League champions 3 times in 6 weeks. Now, in my opinion, that's the sign of a class team. If you can beat the best of the best many times consistently and consistently perform well, I think if Thomas Tuchel got the starting squad correctly, if he got the players he should be playing right, I think they can easily walk this league. But he just doesn't play the right place. He was playing Thiago Silva last season. I don't rate Thiago Silva. I think he's a good defender. I just don't think he's quick enough nowadays. I know it's my opinion, but I think that the Premier League champions are going to be Chelsea, and I think Chelsea are going to do brilliantly. I think that Chelsea are a fucking brilliant team. I love Chelsea. I love their squad. I love their team. I think they are genuinely going to win the league. And they might be getting rid of Tammy Abraham. They might be signing Koundé as well. That would be an insane transfer. They play a free-at-the-back system that works. It works. It's brilliant. And we're going to make this video 30 minutes long. I might do 2 times speed, but yeah, this is brilliant. I think Chelsea are going to win the Premier League. Those are my predictions. Deal with it.